Students, in last class or in last lecture, we have studied up to the structure of sperm, and today in this class we are going to learn about the regulation of spermatogenesis by hormones. The master gland, what I am showing here, the hypothalamus, it produces gonadotrophin releasing hormones GnRH, which act on the anterior pituitary gland to produce follicle stimulating hormone and interstitial cell stimulating hormone. The produced interstitial cell hormone, it act on the testes, which helps in the development of Leydig's cells, so that Leydig's cells produces testosterone, which helps in the spermatogenesis. Oversecretion of testosterone gives negative feedback to hypothalamus as well as anterior pituitary gland, which in turn regulates the production of interstitial stimulating hormone. On other hand, the follicle stimulating hormone, it acts on the Sertoli cells of somniferous tubules that nourishes the developing spermatogonial cells, which is ready to undergo spermatogenesis. And Sertoli cell also produces a proteinaceous structure, inhibitory structure called as inhibin, which gives negative feedback to the anterior pituitary gland, which in turn again regulate the follicle stimulating hormone and interstitial cell stimulating hormone production. Thereby, it regulates the spermatogenesis. This is how the hormone of hypothalamus and the hormones of anterior pituitary gland, they regulate the spermatogenesis. Let us study the female reproductive system. As in case of male, here also in female we can find out the primary sex organs as well as secondary sex organs. The primary sex organs include pair of ovaries, and secondary sex organs include the accessory ducts such as oviduct, otherwise they are also called as fallopian tubes, the cervix as well as vagina. And it also shows in the secondary sex organ the glands such as Bartholin gland, and finally the external genitalia vulva. This is sectional view of female reproductive system. Here what you are seeing, these are pair of ovaries which are located on each side of the uterus part. These ovaries are primary sex organs of a female. They are also known as gonads, which produces female gamete ovum as well as several steroid hormones such as estrogen, progesterone, relaxin, etc. These ovaries are almond shaped, usually measures 2 to 4 cm in length and connected to the pelvic wall and uterus by the broad ligaments. Now what you are seeing here, it is fallopian tube, also known as oviduct. Each fallopian tube usually measures around 10 to 12 cm long and extends from periphery of each ovary towards the uterus. The part which is closer to the ovary is a inverted funnel shaped structure which is called as infundibulum, and this infundibulum is showing finger like projections, what we are seeing here. So these kinds of structures called as fimbriae. These fimbriae have minute openings called as ostium, so which helps in the collection of ovum after ovulation. Next to infundibulum, the oviduct has a wider part called, which is known as ampulla, and this ampulla continues in the fallopian tube as a narrow lumen which is called as isthmus, which joins the uterus at the part called as the uterine part. Here what you are seeing, this structure is known as uterus, which is present only one. It is also called as womb. The uterus part which receives fallopian tube, it is known as uterine fundus. What you are seeing here, dome shaped structure, it is uterine fundus. The wall of uterine is made up of 3 layers. The outer layer is known as perimetrium, which is made up of epithelial tissue, and the middle thick layer is made up of smooth muscles and it is called as myometrium, and inner one it is known as endometrium, which is glandular. These 3 layers together, they encloses a cavity of uterus, it is called as uterine cavity. This perimetrium layer which I am showing, it helps to attach pelvic wall with the help of ligaments, and myometrium helps during the parturition for strong contraction, as well as endometrium helps for the attachment of the embryo during the implantation process, as well as endometrium undergoes cyclical changes during the menstrual cycle. The lower part of uterine is connected to the vaginal tube through a canal-like system called as a cervical canal. The opening of cervical canal which connects to the uterine part, it is known as internal orifice, and the opening of the cervical canal which connects to the vagina, it is known as external orifice. And vagina is a copulatory organ, a tubular structure, so which has many folding like structures called as vaginal rugae. Here what you are seeing, this is the structure of mammary gland, which is a characteristic feature of a female mammal. These mammary glands usually functional in all females, not in males due to hormones. These mammary glands, they are also called as breasts. Breasts are paired eminence structures which are situated in front of pectoralis major muscle. Each breast at its center has a sucking structure called as nipple, surrounded by a pigmented skin called as areola. The areola is the dark brown color. The breasts or mammary glands, they are made up of two kinds of tissues, the glandular tissue and the fatty tissue. In each mammary gland, the glandular tissue divided into several compartment-like structures, usually 15 to 20 compartment-like structures, what we call mammary lobes, so which contain usually a cluster of cells called as alveoli or alveolus. The cells of alveoli, they only secrete the milk which is usually stored in the cavity of alveoli called lumen. Lumen of each alveoli, here they open into the mammary tubules. Many tubules of alveoli joined together form the mammary duct, and in the same way several mammary ducts together they form a wider mammary ampulla which connected to the lactiferous duct that open into nipple. Now, so what we are seeing here, it is the female external genitalia called vulva. The vulva include mons pubis, labia majora, labia minora, hymen and clitoris. Above the vestibule of vulva, so there is a cushion of fatty tissue, what you are seeing here, which is covered by skin and pubic hair. It is called as the mons pubis. And here around vaginal opening, pair of fleshy fold tissues, what you are seeing here, they are called as labia majora, which extended down from mons pubis. Under labia majora, paired folds of tissue, what you are seeing here, they are called as labia minora. Here, the opening of vagina or the orifice of vagina had covered by a partial membrane called as hymen. And in the upper part, at the junction of labia minora, we are seeing the finger-like projection. It is called as clitoris. Below to clitoris, what we are seeing here, a opening, it is called as urethral opening or urethral orifice or urethral meatus. Note that vaginal orifice is completely different from the urethral orifice. What you are seeing here, it is a sectional view of ovary. Here, this ovary externally lined by the germinal epithelium. What you are seeing here, this external germinal epithelium encloses a cavity called as stroma. This stroma divided into two zones called cortex and medulla. The cortex is the outer part of the cavity and medulla is the inner part of the cavity called stroma. Here, the outer part, the cortical part of the ovary, it is showing many developing structures called as follicles. The follicle may be primary follicle, it may be secondary follicle, it may be tertiary follicle. Like that, the follicles, they will keep on developing for the purpose of production of egg. During the embryo development only, these germinal epithelial cells, they will keep on producing oogonial cells. Oogonial cells are also known as egg mother cell or gamete mother cells, which are formed within each ovary during the development of ovary in the fetus only. No oogonia are formed or added after birth. So we need to note that these oogonial cells or egg mother cells, they are formed during the embryonal development only, the fetal development only in the mother womb. Each ovary produces around 2 million gamete mother cells. Now, these oogonial cells, they enter meiosis 1 and get arrested at prophase 1 of meiosis 1. And the oogonial cells which have entered meiosis 1, they are referred as primary oocyte. And these oocytes get encircled by a number of cells called as the granulosa cells and forms the primary follicle. A large number of primary follicles usually degenerates before a female attains puberty after birth. So only 60 to 80,000 primary follicles will be remaining at the time of puberty. When the primary follicle surrounded by many granulosa cells, the same primary follicle develops into secondary follicle. Secondary follicle develops into tertiary follicle, where we can find out a fluid filled cavity called as antrum, which is a characteristic feature of tertiary follicle. In tertiary follicle, the granulosa cells or follicular cells, they are arranged into two layers. The inner one layer is called as inner theca interna and external layer is known as external theca externa or outer theca externa. In this tertiary follicle stage only, the primary oocyte, it grows, develops and completes the meiosis 1. As a result of meiosis 1, two daughter cells are formed, and among two daughter cells, one of the cells, it is densely packed with the cytoplasm and another one is bare body. The bare body cell is called as polar body, and the second one, the largest cell which is deposited by cytoplasmic content, it is called as secondary oocyte. The produced secondary oocyte is haploid in nature due to reductional division. Here, what you are seeing, this structure showing the Graafian follicle, which is developed from the tertiary follicle only. In this Graafian follicle, the secondary oocytes develops a new membrane called as zona pellucida. And in this Graafian follicle, the secondary oocyte, it enters into meiosis 2 and get arrested in the metaphase 2 of meiosis 2. And this secondary oocyte, which is arrested at metaphase 2, it is ovulated, it is released due to LH surge. And this process, release of egg or ovum or secondary oocyte from ovary, it is called as ovulation. This released secondary oocyte, it completes meiosis 2 only after the entry of sperm into it. Now come to the oogenesis. Oogenesis in the sense, the process of formation of egg. It is called as oogenesis. As I have mentioned earlier, the oogonial cells, they are formed in the early development of embryo only. These oogonial cells, they enter meiosis in the development of fetus only, in the early development of embryo only. And those cells which enter into meiosis 1, they are called as primary oocytes. These primary oocytes get arrested in the prophase 1 of meiosis 1. And these primary oocytes which have been arrested in meiosis 1, after delivery, after birth of the fetus, it start to grow in size. Okay, so what we call growing phase. After puberty, the primary oocyte which have been arrested in meiosis 1, they complete meiosis 1 prior to ovulation. Due to completion of meiosis 1, two daughter cells are formed. Out of two daughter cell, one of the cell, it is bare body and it is known as first polar body, and another one, it is deposited by rich cytoplasmic content, so it is known as secondary oocyte. And that secondary oocyte also enter into meiosis 2 but arrested at metaphase 2 during ovulation. And the ovulated ovum, as I have mentioned earlier, it is arrested at the metaphase 2 of meiosis 2, and it will complete its meiosis 2 only after the entry of sperm, and it forms two daughter cells. Out of two daughter cells, one of the cell, it is so bare body and it is known as second polar body, whereas another one, it is deposited by niche nutrient cytoplasmic content and it is known as ootid or ovum, which is get fertilized by the sperm. Let us study the menstrual cycle. The reproductive cycle in primates, it is also known as menstrual cycle. The menstrual cycle can also be defined as the cyclical changes in the activities of ovaries and accessory ducts as well as hormones during the reproductive phase in primates. It is called as menstrual cycle. The first menstruation begins at puberty, it is called as menarche, and the last menstruation after the completion of the fertile period, it is known as menopause. Usually in human females, a menstrual cycle will be about a 28 or 29 days cycle. The menstrual cycle completes in 4 phases. The first phase, it is known as menstruation, that lasts for 1 day to 5 days. Here, menstrual flow can be seen. This menstrual flow is due to breakdown of endometrial lining of the uterus as well as the blood vessels, so which forms liquid and that comes out through the vagina. Menstruation occurs only if the released egg is not get fertilized. The lack of menstruation may be indicative of pregnancy, otherwise it may be due to stress. The second phase of menstrual cycle, it is follicular phase or proliferation phase. During this phase, the primary follicles they develop into mature or Graafian follicles. Simultaneously, the endometrium layer it also regenerated. These changes in ovary as well as uterus, it is brought by the hormonal changes. These hormones they were secreted by pituitary as well as the ovary also. The gonadotropin hormones, luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormones, they increased gradually during the follicular phase so that the follicles develop from primary follicle to the matured Graafian follicle. Both luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone attain their peak level in the mid of the cycle, usually on 14th day. So due to rapid secretion of LH leading the release of ovum, and it is called as LH surge. Third phase of menstrual cycle, it is ovulatory phase. Due to LH surge, due to attainment of LH at its peak level, it induces rupture of Graafian follicle so that the egg or ovum is released, and the process is called as ovulation. The fourth and last phase of menstrual cycle, it is luteal phase. After egg release, the Graafian follicle it is transformed into corpus luteum, which keep on secreting large amount of progesterone, which is essential for the maintenance of endometrium. We know that the endometrium is necessary for the implantation of the fertilized ovum and other events for the pregnancy. During pregnancy, all the events of menstrual cycle they are ceased and there is no menstruation. In the absence of fertilization, the corpus luteum it degenerates, which causes disintegration of endometrium leading to the menstruation, again which starts with the new cycle. Once the semen released by the man in female reproductive tract vagina, the sperms which are present in the semen, they swim rapidly to reach the fertilization site called ampullary ischemic region. This ampullary ischemic region of fallopian tube is the site of fertilization, which produces all microenvironment which support for the fertilization. This is why all coitus during the fertile period of female will not lead to the fertilization or pregnancy. Once the sperm and egg reaches the ampullary ischemic region at the same time, it leads to the fusion of sperm and egg. So what we call fertilization. Once the released sperm come in contact with zona pellucida of ovum, it brings changes in the membrane so that another sperm cannot enter, so that the blockage of membrane takes place. This is why only one of the sperms gets succeeded to enter into the sperm, not all the sperm released by the men. The secretions of acrosome part of sperm helps to penetrate through zona pellucida and membrane of the ovum. So remember that what we have discussed in the previous slide, the released ovum from ovary, it is actually a secondary oocyte which had arrested at the metaphase 2 of meiosis 2. So that once the sperm entered into the secondary oocyte, the meiosis 2 will complete and leads to the formation of two daughter cells, and one of them it is rich with the cytoplasmic content called as the ootid, and another one is bare body called as a secondary polar body. The ootid get fertilized by the sperm. It is called as fertilization, or else it is also known as amphimixis. This fertilization leads to the formation of zygote. And the sex of that zygote or embryo, it is determined by the sperm which is carrying either X chromosome or Y chromosome. If the sperm which is carrying X chromosome, if it fertilizes with the egg, it results in the formation of female zygote. The development of embryo, it is female. If the Y carrying sperm fuses with the egg, it results in Once the zygote is formed, it enters into post-fertilization event called as embryogenesis. Here, the zygote undergo series of mitotic division, what we call cleavage, and the zygote will be keep on moving towards the uterus. As a result of first mitotic division, the zygote forms 2-celled stage, later 4-celled stage, later 8-celled stage, 16-celled stage, so on. And formed daughter cells, they are known as blastomeres. And here, the embryo, which is from 8 to 16-celled blastomere containing embryo, it is called as a morula. As the morula continues the mitotic division, it transforms into a blastocyst, so which further moved into uterus, and the same blastocyst is going to be attached at the uterus part, so what we call implantation. In this blastocyst, the outer layer of blastomere, it is called as trophoblast, so which is used to absorb nutrient from the surrounding environment. And the mass of blastomeres inner to the trophoblast, they are known as inner cell mass. This layer of trophoblast, the outermost layer, helps for the attachment of embryo or else the blastocyst to the uterine wall, whereas the inner cell mass, it get differentiated into a embryo. Once the blastocyst get attached to the uterine wall, this is the structure of blastocyst. As early I have mentioned, the outermost layer made up of blastomeres, it is called as a trophoblast, which is used to absorb nutrients from the surrounding environment. And this trophoblast, it covers internally a fluid filled cavity called as blastocele, as well as a mass of blastomeres, it is known as inner cell mass. During implantation, the trophoblast of the blastocyst, it produces finger-like projections called as chorionic villi, which are surrounded by the uterine tissue and maternal tissue. Maternal in the sense mother endometrium tissue. And both chorionic villi and uterine tissue become integrated so that they form a structural and functional unit between the developing fetus and maternal body called as placenta. This placenta facilitate the supply of oxygen and nutrients from mother to the developing fetus, and this placenta only removes the carbon dioxide as well as excretory materials produced by the embryo. This placenta will also act as endocrine tissue, which produces several kinds of hormones such as human chorionic gonadotrophin, so simply known as HCG, and it also produces human placental lactogen, HPL, as well as estrogen, progesterone, so and so. Note that this HCG, HPL and relaxin, they are produced during pregnancy only, not all the time. And this relaxin hormone, what I have mentioned earlier, it is produced by the ovary during pregnancy only. During pregnancy, the hormones like estrogen, progesterone, cortisol, prolactin, thyroxine, etc., they increased multi-time in the mother blood. Why? Because to support the well development of fetus. After successful implantation, the inner cell mass, it start to differentiate into outer ectoderm, inner endoderm, and in between mesoderm, and the process is called as gastrulation, and formed structure is called as gastrula. The developing embryo, it shows the formation of heart by the first 4 weeks, and limbs, digits are formed by the 8 weeks. Major organ system like other parts, liver, stomach and all limbic system, they are shown by the 12th week. And first movement of fetus as well as appearance of hair occurs in the 20th week. And the baby covered by hairs, eyelids separate and eyelashes are formed during the 24th week. And by the 9th month, the fetus get developed fully and it is ready for the parturition. Now, the last concept, parturition and lactation. After completion of gestation period, at the end of pregnancy, vigorous contraction of uterus causes expulsion or delivery of the fetus, and the process of delivery of fetus, it is called as parturition. This parturition is a complex neuroendocrine mechanism. The signals for parturition originated from fully developed fetus as well as the placenta, which induces the mild uterine contraction called the fetal ejection reflex. This triggers oxytocin release from the maternal pituitary gland, and oxytocin also act on the uterine muscles, especially the myometrium, and causes a stronger uterine contraction, which again further results in the secretion of oxytocin. The stimulatory reflex between uterine contraction and oxytocin secretion continues, so as the stronger and stronger contractions are produced, due to which the baby expelled out through the birth canal. It is called as parturition. During the pregnancy, mammary glands of women, they undergo differentiation and start producing milk towards the end of pregnancy, and the process is called as lactation. This lactation process helps mother to feed a new infant. And the milk produced during early lactation, it is known as colostrum, which contains several antibodies, especially the immunoglobulin A, which supports resistance for of the newborn baby. This is why the doctors prefer breastfeeding in the initial days.